So the mid-season update patch notes have been leaked, so we're going to fly through it in this video now. In Season 2's update, we're going to get adjustments to the team up capabilities, which I think will be really beneficial to this game, because that Iron Man Hulk team up is pretty broken, and it's going to be broken after we read through these patch notes as well. So let's get straight into these, and I've went over the detailed ones on purpose because I feel like people have missed out very important information in their video, so I do want to kind of point those out. So first of all, we're starting off with Venom, and his frenzied arrival now knocks back enemies inwards instead of vertically upwards, which is very important. And also his ultimate basically has less energy cost, so we're going to be getting it a lot quicker. So every time you see less energy cost, that just means you're going to be getting your ultimate a lot faster in this game. And the reason why the frenzied arrival is a good change here is because it's going to suck enemies towards you when basically you dive down at them, which will give you more kills. So it's not dealing any extra damage, but it will be helping get more kills here. Captain America's adjustments are quite a lot, so we're going to go through this. Increased survivability during prolonged battles, improved usability of his vibranium shield, and the ultimate energy cost is being reduced again. So his ultimate you get quicker, you can use his shield as well, and now you're able to use absolute will for defense whilst jumping, so you can use his shield whilst you're jumping as well, which I think is absolutely insane, by the way. The vibranium energy shield projectile speed, so this is the one where he throws it like a frisbee, has basically increased, so the increase the speed of this, so it's going to attack a lot faster and attack between enemies faster as well. Again, his ultimate has been reduced, so you can basically get that a lot faster. The light shield strike melee attacks are now separate, so this is very important. If you know how Captain America actually works in this game, you basically melee for 2 strikes and then you throw the shield for the rest of his strikes, but this is going to be 2 separate attacks now. It will still activate after the 2, but you can carry on meleeing if you press the melee button instead. That's basically what this means, which means you can combo way more with Captain America, and you'll see a lot more people doing that, especially at close range, and his melee attacks do deal more damage. We've basically done a whole testing video on melee anyway, and you can check that one out at the end of this one. But like I said, that's a huge buff to Captain America. Next up, we've got Thor, and basically improved usability of his awakening rune. So basically they remove the cooldown timer for this, which is basically insane, because as soon as you get your 3 hammers back, you can use this again instantly, and I think that's a good way to balance this hero. I don't think this is completely broken in any way, even though this is probably one of those powerful damage dealing heroes in the game. Next up, we've got Groot, and his Thorn Wall place distance is increased from 15 to 18. This is great, actually, a good buff to Groot, which makes him better at long range. And I don't think he really needed too much of a buff, to be honest, but this is a good change, nothing too broken. I think this is really good. Magneto got a huge nerf in my opinion here, because even though he does deal more damage now with his primary attacks, his electromagnetic curtain consumes more energy, and also it's basically been reduced in terms of the timer. Now the timer thing in my opinion is more important, because basically you're going to get this a lot less, and also is going to be active for a lot less as well. So usually we get this curtain very often, but we're going to get it for a lot less time, and we're going to get it active and available to us a lot less as well. So I think this is a massive nerf to Magneto. People are going to not really understand this one until we're actually in game playing him. This is huge, by the way. Then Doctor Strange, we've got a change to his health. I think this is not really a massive nerf, to be honest. 50 HP difference, especially when you've got good healers on your team, you're not really going to notice it too much, to be honest. It's very similar to that Hela nerf that we got. Next up, we've got the Duelist, and as you can see here, we've got a lot of the changes here. So improved sustained combat ability, added new functionality to zigzag punch, and improved more battlefield choices. So Jeet Kune Do attack is adjusted. The 1st, 2nd, and 5th is reduced to 30 hits. If you didn't realize, inside this game, certain attacks deal certain damage. So if you punch once, it deals a certain amount of damage, and if you punch 2 or 3 or 4 times, it changes the values. Hits 3 and 4 are reduced from 16 to 15, and hit 6 is reduced from 55 to 50. So basically overall his damage got reduced. His zigzag punch damage got reduced from 19 to 10, but per hit now deals 1.7% of the enemy's max HP. So again, this is going to go against some of those higher HP heroes, kind of similar to the way the Scarlet Witch works, that the higher the health, the more damage you're going to deal, which I think is a slightly better way to balance this hero in my opinion. Heart meditation bonus increases your HP from 50 to 150 and now decays at 25 HP per second after the first second. So he's going to get way more HP. I think this is like good changes for Iron Fist in my opinion, to be honest. I think this is going to make him way more balanced. Block and counter max converted HP is increased from 150 to 200. Base health is also increased. He's got so much more insane health. I think he's going to be broken, to be honest. I'm not going to lie to you. These changes, as much as his damage is being reduced, I actually think he's still going to be an extremely broken dive hero in this game. So we'll have to see. Definitely still going to be better than Spider-Man, in my opinion. Mr. Fantastic improved harassment potential. Stretch slam ground effect radius increased from 2.5 meters to 5 meters, also knocks enemies outwards. Stretch slam cooldown increased from 8 seconds to 10 seconds, so basically they've increased his cooldown because it now deals essentially a bigger radius of damage, so it's more effective. Mind Crush, which is basically the ultimate, has a damage increase, so now you're going to get more kills by using your ultimate, which I think is actually quite good, to be honest. But the Mind Crush cost has been increased now, so not only is it more powerful, it's going to take you a lot longer to get it, so it's a good way to balance it in my opinion. I think it's pretty straightforward there. Mind Crush now has damage fall off, reducing damage from 3 meters outwards with a max reduction of 10 meters. So that's going to be how big the radius is of the attack. Iron Man got a buff. I don't really know why, but regardless he did. Basically the beam ray has a damage increase from 120 a second to 140 a second. And with the armor overdrive, it's also been buffed as well to 190 damage a second. So pretty insane values here. I think Iron Man didn't really need a buff, but we got it anyway. Hawkeye did need a buff, so we've got a base health increase with 25 HP. That's okay. Explosive arrow projectile damage is being reduced. No one really uses this too much anyway, to be honest. But its field damage is being increased, so basically the explosive damage to it has been increased, but if you land on the projectile it deals less damage. So it's kind of like a buff and a nerf at the same time. It kind of makes more sense to do it this way because obviously it is an explosive projectile, so that makes sense to me. Crescent slash cooldown is being reduced, so basically this is when you're trying to use a sword to slash someone. Basically you're going to get this more often and basically allowing him to be more viable against dive heroes, so that makes more sense. Falcon Vision ultimate now charges bow faster with a charge speed multiplier increased from 1.2 to 1.35, so you're going to be able to charge your bow up quicker to deal more damage more often. Storm needed a nerf, to be honest, so her reduced long range threat and decreased self buff from aura whilst increasing team buff, so more of a team based hero, less of a giving yourself all the extra damage and stuff. Windblade damage fall off at 30 meters improved from 70 to 60%. Really, that means not improved. Okay, we'll see. Thunderstorm self-damage buff reduced from 16 to 12%. Ally buff increased. So basically when you're giving yourself the damage buff, it's less for yourself, but you get more for your teammates, which I actually think is a better way. Enhanced Thunderstorm self-damage buff reduced from 30% to 25%. So again, the buff to yourself for damage is less now. And that is basically Storm, which basically got a nerf essentially. Star-Lord increased max movement distance for rocket boosting, and boost max energy increased from 1200 to 1800, which basically is his fuel and his rocket thrusters, so you can stay in the air and flying for longer. This is a great buff to Star-Lord in my opinion. I know he didn't really need much of a buff, but I think this is good. I don't think this is going to be breaking the character in any way, shape or form. There's a lot of flying heroes in this game, and I think they're accounting for the Human Torch coming in at the end of this week, so that kind of makes sense. Scarlet Witch increased survivability when using ultimate. I don't know about that one, to be honest. I hate Scarlet Witch's ultimate ability. Reality Erasure ultimate grants 100 bonus HP upon activation, which decays at 50 after the ultimate ends. So basically she's going to stay alive a lot longer during the ultimate phase. If you've got a good team, you don't really need this buff, to be honest. It's only for kind of the lower level kind of players where they're not really combining ultimates together and things like that, but again, we'll see how this kind of plays out during the match or during games when the update does actually take place. Spider-Man did need a buff, so I'm glad to see this one. Slightly reduced cooldown for web shot, decreasing attack downtime. Brilliant. Web shot charge time reduced from 3 seconds to 2.5. Great. Spider-Man needed the buff anyway. Moon Knight increased enemy reaction time to Khonshu's fist, which is basically his ultimate attack, and optimized its damage logic, so they just changed the way the damage works. Adjusted Khonshu's fist damage. Each hit now deals 150 damage instead of 75, whilst removing the previous central area effect. So basically it's going to deal 150 damage overall, and if you're inside the middle of the attack, it's still going to deal the same amount of damage. So it actually had a buff in the center of the attack than it did outside, but now it's just going to be the same all around, and it's going to deal a bit less damage. Black Widow improved combat potential and post-ultimate threat. Red Room Rifle magazine is increased, so basically our sniper rifle mag is increased, which is good. Energy Vortex ultimate slow effect has been reduced from 80% to 55, now inflicts 4-second debuff causing 15% damage to be taken, so basically you deal more damage. I think that means you can land more headshots and get one shots, so keep that in mind. I think this is a really solid one, because what that means is after that debuff time you can be getting one shots, so that's pretty solid actually. Hela improved suppression capability at medium range. Soul Piercer damage fall off at 30 meters has been increased. Next up we've got the Strategist, and we're starting off with Adam Warlock. Increased damage and slight healing buff, and basically his primary attack has been increased from 55 to 60. Solid. I think this is good changes for him, to be honest. Damage fall off at 40 meters improved. That's also good. I think he could do the extra damage buff. And Soul Synergy healing increased from 10 HP a second to 15 HP a second. Again, good changes here. This is going to not make him broken in any way, shape or form, because he's not even that good, to be honest, and I think this is good changes for Adam Warlock. Cloak and Dagger increased survival during ultimate and reduced ultimate frequency duration. I think this is good, right? I don't think they needed to change anything else with this hero other than that. Light and Shadow ultimate energy cost is being increased, so you can't get the ultimate as often. People are spamming this far too much, in my opinion. The Light and Shadow duration reduced, also the reduced the duration, so you still do the 4 spins or whatever it is, but how long you get it for is less time. But it's also got a shorter pause, so you can obviously do it a lot faster, which is actually really good. It's going to make it a lot more smoother, but it's going to last a lot less time. Okay, so that's a good change actually, in my opinion. And the camera control is unlocked. I think this means you could just basically go in any direction you want, which is actually pretty cool, to be fair. It makes it like it's like a slight buff to this as well, because this is not something we could do before. And Cloak of Fear vulnerability effect is increased from 20% to 28%. So I'm not really too sure what that means, to be honest. That's the only thing I don't understand here. So that's but this is actually a pretty solid change. It's kind of like a buff and a nerf at the same time, to be honest, but I actually think it's a really good change because Cloak and Dagger is pretty broken anyway. Invisible Woman Phantom Presence ultimate energy cost has been increased. I don't think this is a strong ultimate, to be honest, in this game, so I don't really know why they increased the energy cost, and I don't really see it happen very often either. So just because she's a strong character in general doesn't mean her ultimate's necessarily strong. We also got some slight team synergy adjustments here, but the way these are described is not very good, so I'm not really 100% sure what they mean. I can only kind of speculate a little bit until we get the official patch note. So Gamma Charge reduces Hulk's synergy benefit and Beam Ray. So I don't know if Beam Ray is also coming from Iron Man as well. So that means technically his beam's got a buff when he's by himself, but when he's with Hulk, it's not quite as powerful. I don't know, right? That's what that sounds like to me. And then also the Hulk's not getting the good benefit from this. Dimensional Teleport improved Black Panther and Psylocke's combat endurance. Again, it's not really describing very much. Light Force now grants Moon Knight healing over time after skill activation. Basically, when Moon Knight goes like invisible or whatever it is, I'm not even too sure what that ability actually does, to be honest. He can now get healing over time as well, which is pretty solid actually, because Cloak and Dagger are healing heroes, so that kind of makes sense. Symbiote Bond reworked defensive mechanics for Spider-Man and Penny Parker, now granting temporary invincibility instead of damage reduction. So basically they're invincible when they use the Symbiote Bond. I think this is a solid change. It's a good attack that can be used with Venom and those 2 other heroes. And I think this is a good one. This one actually makes sense and I understand what it's doing, and it's pretty solid. But that's all the patch notes. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, and thank you very much for watching.